When I downloaded the photographs that night, Marcus was facing the camera in all of them. I know what I documented. I know I had my back to him for every shot. I know because I was working the South Passage, 17 frames, methodical left to right coverage of the ceiling, stratigraphy, and Marcus was behind me the whole time. I could hear the protein bar wrapper crinkling. Hear him breathing through his nose, the way people do at altitude. You don't photograph someone 17 times and forget which direction they were standing. That's not how documentation works. That's not how people work. I should start at the beginning. Aderton Mining contracted me in early November to complete a load-bearing survey of the Whitmore system. 4 miles of charted passage, another 12 unmapped in the hills outside a town too small to support a proper grocery store. The previous surveyor, a man named Marcus Hale, had gone in 10 days ahead of me and not come out on schedule. The company said he was fine. They said he'd radioed in, that he'd extended his own timeline, that he was thorough to a fault. They needed a second assessment before filing permits. I was the second assessment. I've been doing this for 11 years. Karst geology, structural load analysis, confined environments. I carry 2 backup light sources and a satellite communicator. I note everything. Tight passages don't bother me. Darkness doesn't bother me. I have a methodology I've refined over a decade, and I do not spook easily. I want to be clear about that. Day 1 was clean. The cave smelled the way all limestone systems smell. Old water, wet clay, something faintly mineral that you stop noticing after the first hour. I set base camp near the entrance, documented the first 2 branches, ate a cold meal, and slept well enough. No sign of Marcus. His last radio check had placed him somewhere near the 4th junction. Day 2 was when I heard the gravel. I was standing still at a passage intersection, penciling in my map, weight distributed evenly, not shifting. The sound came from directly under my left boot, a soft, dry sliding, like small stones settling under pressure. I stepped back and looked. Bare limestone beneath me, pale and continuous, not a loose stone in 10 feet. I had been standing on bare limestone for the better part of 20 minutes. I noted it in my log as probable micro-seismic activity. This is coal country, there are old shafts everywhere, and continued working. I found Marcus on day 3. He was in a long, low chamber called the gallery, ceiling dropping to 4 feet at its tightest, sitting with his back against the far wall and his headlamp switched off. When I came in, his face turned my direction. Not startled, not relieved, just oriented, the way a security camera orients. Marcus. A pause. 2 full seconds. Yeah, hey Kara. I hadn't told Aderton who they were sending. I don't know how he had my name. I filed that detail away and asked how he was. He said fine after the same interval, 2 seconds, metronomic, like a call routed through a bad satellite link, and something about the precision of the delay made me not ask again. His documentation was excellent. He passed me a notebook, and I reviewed it against my own maps, and everything was accurate, detailed, correct, better than mine in places. I should have felt relieved. I moved my headlamp across the wall to read a notation, and his shadow moved wrong. Half a second behind him, and in a direction that didn't match the light source. I know how shadows work in irregular cave geometry. I've spent years in spaces like this. I told myself it was the ceiling, the way uneven rock scatters light into competing planes. I said it to myself in my most professional internal voice, and mostly I believed it. He hadn't blinked since I walked in. I watched him for 4 full minutes. His eyes moved, his chest moved with his breathing, but the eyes themselves never closed and reopened, not once. I said I was going to document the South Passage. I left. That's when I took the photographs. 17 shots, systematic, Marcus behind me the entire time. I heard the rapper. I heard him breathe. I was as aware of him as you're aware of any person sharing a space with you. Not watching, but knowing. When I downloaded the images at base camp, he was facing the camera in every single frame. Not mid-turn, not blurred with motion. Facing it, directly, eyes open and neutral. In the first photo, he was 15 feet back. In the last, he was close enough that I could read the label on his jacket collar. There was no blur in any frame. He had not moved quickly. He had simply been, somehow, already there, already facing forward, already looking. I sat with that for a long time. Then I went back to the gallery and asked him, very carefully, if he had followed me into the South Passage. He said no. 2 seconds, said he hadn't moved. I asked if he wanted to pack out together in the morning. He held very still for a moment that lasted slightly too long. "Yes," he said, "I didn't sleep." The entry chamber floor is packed clay. I had looked at it for 3 days, mapped it, put tent stakes into it. At some point, after 2 in the morning, I heard gravel shifting outside my tent, a slow circular sound, the sound of weight moving at a deliberate pace around the perimeter. I unzipped the tent. I put on my headlamp. There was nothing there. The floor was smooth. I sat in the tent opening until dawn and cataloged every sound the cave made and told myself each one had an explanation. We packed out the next morning. In the light, Marcus looked fine. He moved correctly, picked up his pack, walked the passages without ducking at the wrong moments, did everything a person does. If I hadn't spent a day with him, I might not have noticed the pauses, might not have noticed that his responses arrived exactly 2 seconds after my words, every time, without variation, not the variable lag of someone thinking, but the fixed delay of something processing. On the surface, in daylight, surrounded by birch trees and the sound of a creek, you could almost rationalize it. Almost. At the trailhead, he turned to me and said it had been good working with me. 2 seconds. Said I was very thorough. I watched him drive away. I filed my report. Load-bearing capacity satisfactory. Structural integrity within acceptable parameters. No conditions that would prevent permitting. It was honest work. 3 weeks later, Aderton called. Marcus had submitted a secondary survey covering passages that weren't on any map passages that, by all known geometry of the system, couldn't exist. When they'd asked him about it, he'd said he must have gone deeper than he realized. They noted in the meeting minutes that he'd said it after a pause. They didn't note the length. I know the length. They asked if I'd noticed anything unusual during my survey. I said no. I don't know what I was protecting. Him, maybe. Or the answer. That was 6 weeks ago. I think about Marcus. I think about the photographs. The way he was already facing the camera before I turned around, already there, already waiting, with no space between the positions he should have occupied and the one he was in. I think about his shadow moving wrong, but mostly I think about this morning. I was standing in my kitchen making coffee, not moving, window closed, socks on tile, nothing loose anywhere on the floor within 20 feet. Underneath my left boot, faint and patient and certain, I heard the gravel shift. If you've ever stood still in your own kitchen and heard something that shouldn't be there, you already know why I write these. Let me know down in the comments. What do you think Marcus actually was? Was Kara ever really talking to him? Or was she talking to whatever learned to sound like him, and that gravel under her boot at the very end? Is it following her, or was it never in the cave to begin with? Drop your theory below. I read everyone, and I'll pin my favorites. If this one got under your skin, subscribe. New stories drop soon, and you really don't want to be the only one who missed the next one.